give you the document.
And then what is the date of the document?
Okay, there are many documents.
Okay, give me one example.
Yes, for example, Tabaqat al-Qurra.
Okay, and when was it dated?
The dates on the is more than one date. So the way Tabaqat works is that it gives you the dates of each.
No, I'm asking for the date of the document.
The document.
Which one? This is the second.
The one you've just mentioned.
So this was written by Ibn al-Jazari.
When?
I don't know when.
Is there any way we can find out?
We can find out. I can find out for you.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it has to come because it narrates the link going back to Hafs, right? It goes from right. So that means that document must either be contemporaneous to Hafs or later than Hafs.
So you're saying that you want documents contemporaneous to Hafs?
Right. So what? No. What I'm saying is, you are using.
No, I don't mind. No, if you want that, I'll give you that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, you're using a document that was written after Hafs himself. To justify this idea of the chain of narration.
John, you didn't ask me that.
No, it's exactly what Jason asked you.
No problem.
That is exactly what. Is that what you asked him?
No.
Am I misrepresenting your question?
Fine. I haven't got a problem.
Then it won't be mythological.
Guys, Jason, absolutely. Now you're hitting the nail on the head. Because what I'm going to say to you is that, thank you. Yes, if what you're saying is that you want a document or you want documents to show what we call the tawatur on each level, which means we have mass transmission.
I'm not being funny, but you're sounding like George Foreman now.
I don't know what the hell was going on right now.
George Foreman, come on, you're not actually dealing with it. Go for it.
I don't know what to say to you right now.
Just give us a document. And
I've already given you a document.
But it's after half, so it doesn't, in terms
of.
No,
Jason, you guys have been. Please, guys.
You've given no evidence.
Okay, you say I've given no evidence.
No, you've just given a later document.
John, sorry to say, he asked me a question about chain of narration.
Which you tried to ignore.
Which I answered directly.
No,
I said, okay, let me answer it again. Because you didn't hear the answer. Maybe you should listen to me, yeah? I said the Prophet Muhammad narrated to Ali ibn Abi Talib, to Ibn Mas'ud, to Uthman ibn Affan. Hold on.
Where's the evidence?
He's asking about the chain.
Yeah.
So let me give him the chain and then I'll give you the evidence. And then Ibn Mas'ud narrated, Uthman ibn Affan narrated to many people, including Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami. Yeah, Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami narrated to Asim narrated to Hafs narrated to, and also Shu'bah, but also others, many others. I'm giving you others. And then they narrated to many others as well. So that you have mass transmission at each stage. And it's the same thing being presented.
So where did you get that list of names from?
So this is from Tabaqat al-Qurra.
Which is dated to when?
I don't know when it's dated.
It's dated to after Hafs. So in other words...
What you're saying is, if I can get you something... The first document that was written, from my memory... Hold on. Let me answer your question. The first document that was written... I forget the name of the document, but I can give it to you.
Sorry, brothers.
Yeah? It's called... I think it's called Asanid, but I'll tell you when it was dated. It's dated 95 AH.
And it has this list?
Yes, it has these lists.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Hold on. It's like, so you said before Hafs, I'm doing everything you say, okay? I'm not, please guys.
Now you're addressing.
No, I'm addressing.
Now you're addressing.
No, I'm addressing. It's dated 95 AH, which is, remember the Prophet Muhammad died 11 AH.
Yep.
So this is 80 years after his death.
Is this source that you're saying, this document,
it's physical?
Is it within another document?
No, it's
independent.
No, it's independent.
And what's the earliest copy of this document that we have?
It's dated back to that time.
So we have a document.
Yes.
Physical copy.
Yes.
That is dated.
Yes, and you also have references. Yes, and you also have references.
I'm not saying that the copy was written then.
Yes.
But we have a physical copy.
Yes.
That was actually from then.
Yes.
And that's possible because in the 7th century, by this time, the Muslims had a giant empire.
Yes.
And also...
So does that answer your question?
It at least addresses the question in part.
No problem. Thank you. Can we do the same thing now with the Bible now?
It addresses the question.
Can we have the same standard that we've just employed for the Quran?
No.
No.
We can't.
That's all I wanted to hear, brother.
We can't, and we won't.
That's what I wanted to hear.
We can't and we won't.
John, that's what I wanted to hear.
Because our faith is different to yours.
Yes,
our faith is different to yours.
So after all that scrutiny, I took it on the chin.
No, you didn't.
I answered every question of yours.
Not at all.
And then I come to you. I say, apply the same standards to the Bible. You say no.
No, the reality remains Sunni and Shia disagree with hadiths, and you're trying to construct an argument based upon. No. You came up with the Sunni version of that argument. the Shia will disagree with you.
On
but
what?
You established...
On what?
One second. But here's what we have established from this discussion.
They won't disagree with you, by the way. They take the same standard.
We've established...
Hold on. That's wrong. I have to stop you there.
No,
hold on.
They disagree with you about hadiths. They don't trust
No, but you talk about Quran. He said chapter 1 of Quran.
They don't trust Aisha.
Sorry, hold on.
They don't trust Aisha,
John.
Does Shia trust Aisha?
No, they don't.
There you go. Does Shia trust Bukhari?
No, they don't.
There you go.
John. He said, and I'm equivocal here.
I asked you for
chapter 1. All right, and then I said to you, I gave you the chain. I gave you the names of the books. And that's general knowledge. I didn't even do any research today.
You gave us the name of a document that came after Hafs.
Then I gave you one that came before.
Yes, but that is obviously not linking to Hafs, because if it's before Hafs, it doesn't go up to Hafs, does it?
No, but then you got both.
I've got a question.
No.
We have one before, one after.
You have one before and after. But that doesn't. So all you've got is a list of names.
No.
That list of names is disputed by Muslims themselves.
We don't have that as well. We've got in addition to that, we've got the Masahif. We've got the Masahif, and we've got also, okay, hold on, because you said something, all we've got, that's false. You have
Does Shia trust Abu Bakr?
No, they don't.
Do they trust Uthman?
No, they don't.
Do they trust Osman?
This guy.
So the point is...
What's that got to do with the chain of narration?
The point is... How many Sunni narrations go back to those people?
No, but they trust Hasim and they trust Hafs.
How many...
You said, hold on, sorry, I agree and appreciate that there's a difference of opinion among the Shia and the Sunnah
about hadith.
But we're talking about, he asked about Quran, and I said to him, all right, fine, no problem. The Quran, the Shia accept... I read the word. I apologize, please. Al-Amili, I read what he had to say. At-Tusi, I read what he has to say. I read, and they accept. For the most part, of course, there are some discussions of people that, like Alawi inclined, but they accept Asim, they accept Hafs, and that's why they read. If you go to any masjid, Husayniyah, which is where the Shia pray. They will pray with Qira'at Hafs and Asim.
What's that, sorry?
They'll use the
chain that
Quran that's connected to Hafs.
Yeah, so that's all it is. So the point I'm making is, you said that you're not willing to do that with the Bible.
But they won't. No. Don't put words into my mouth.
All right, so it's not the same standard of preservation then.
What I'm saying is that we Christians don't need a chain of narration.
So why not?
The reason why we don't need a chain of narration is because our documents were written down in the first century
but the people
of our faith.
But hold on. The people that can I say something? The people that wrote them down never saw Jesus.
No, that's not true. That's your claim.
No, okay. So can you just prove it?
No. So in terms of the apostolic witness, it is stated in the Gospel of Luke that the accounts that were written in Luke are from eyewitnesses. In the book of John, it talks about that the one that had written this book, i.e. the one from whom this book was written, was the teaching of John.
Accepted.
We know.
I read that as well.
We know that Mark was the translator of Peter.
I agree with that point. However, there's a point you're missing. I
have no idea what you're saying. Confitio Deo omnipotenti et vobis fratres qual... Yeah, anyway.
John.
Anyone can speak God Latin. Carry on.
What I was going to say was that what seems to be happening, if we're talking historically, that we should have the same standards, right?
No, we don't.
Why not?
You keep trying to put words into my mouth and misrepresent my position.
Okay,
no.
I'm willing to. Tell me.
I am saying that you cannot form a criticism about another belief system if that same criticism can be applied back to your religion.
But that's a two-complete fallacy, isn't it?
No, you are trying to... That is the fallacy you're working to. You are trying to say...
How am I working towards it?
You're trying to say we should doubt the New Testament because Christians could not agree or went through this process.
Now you're making a straw man argument.
That is exactly the argument that you're making.
John,
Muslims
please
don't
represent
agree about the hadith.
John, I've already conceded to that.
I'm glad.
What would you like me to do more than to say you're right?
Hold on. Here's something else that you said, which I think was really important, is that you said that the reason why as Sunnis you reject.
And by the way,
Shia,
I've said to you, I've given you my scholarly backing. I said that Ibn Taymiyyah said the same thing. I said that Ibn Taymiyyah said.
No, you quoted Ibn Taymiyyah, but then you applied it to the Gospels, and I was talking about the hadiths at the time.
What are you talking about?
You lost track of the argument.
No. I'm just saying now. Look, here's my question. Sorry, I don't want to
ask your question.
I've got two questions already. The Athanasius one, I think now has been done to death. I don't think you have an answer, right?
No, wait, no, hold on. Stop characterising again.
Okay, I
Every
apologize.
time
Go
we've
ahead.
addressed the Athanasian question, you've interrupted.
So, okay, no problem. I'll give you a chance to answer it again. I've got two questions, simple questions. You asked me this, it's only the same historical scrutiny, yeah? You said that when it comes to the Quran, what you asked me about chain, he asked me about chain of narration, I gave him the chain. You asked me about documents.
Which we rejected.
Sorry, you asked me, so let me just, Jason, he asked me about chain, I gave him the chain with the names. He asked me about documents which has those chains, I gave him the documents before and after hafs which have those chains. You asked me about how, I even told you about how many people in each thing carried the message of the Quran. That's done now.
Can I reply on your chain of narration, please?
You can, but let's not this. Can I just say one thing? Sorry. So I've answered everything you've asked me to do. I've been at your service today. Yeah, I've been at your service today. Now what I want from you.
I'll answer this.
So
can I just ask
Jason,
you,
I haven't,
on this chain of narration,
because there's two of you. I just want to.
You've questioned the Christian sources in it. And
I'm just questioning
this chain
it.
of narration.
Right? Yes.
It's based on oral tradition.
Not always, no.
Most of it.
You couldn't say that.
When you defend the Quran, you primarily defend it on oral tradition.
No, that's false.
Well, that's what the rest of your Dawah
no, I don't care. That's not a scholarly source for me. I don't watch videos.
Can we note that? Muhammad Hijab is saying that the defending the Quran based on oral tradition is not sufficient.
Absolutely.
There you go. You heard it from Muhammad's own
Note it,
lips.
please.
That you need to tell your brother Muslims that because they're not on the same page as you at all.
Let me tell you. Let me give you the evidence of that.
I agree with you, by the way.
Yes, Ibn al-Jazari, who is the foremost authority in this, probably in the Islamic world, as we've just quoted him today, he said that the preservation of the Quran depends on three distinct things that have to be triangulated together in order for the preservation to be accepted. Right. Number one is the oral tradition. So there has to be, because I'll tell you why. Is the oral tradition. For example, if you read now, you're an English speaker, I'm an English speaker, right? If we open up a book in English language and we start reading it, maybe me and you will read it in a very similar way, yeah? But the Lexis phonology link, so when you look at a word in the English language, like here is, you look at a word, it says here, did you know where, or, me and you will read it in a similar way. That is only recognized through what you hear, auditory transmission, in a sense. If there's something called the Cambridge Learned Dictionary, right, which shows you all of the, it shows you all of the signs which create the sounds of the word. And the new person learning English would have to be acquainted with those symbols, right? The point is, when you're learning a language or when you're reading a language, you have to be aware of how it sounds so you can pronounce it right. So for us, the oral transmission is a paramount part of the preservation process, because if the Quran was not read and shown and demonstrated, it's a demonstrative effect, it could have been read wrong, basically, right?
Which it was.
Which is why oral transmission by itself is not sufficient.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yes,
that's great.
So
I'm glad you've admitted that, Mohammed.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not my admission, it's what Ibn Jazari said.
I'm glad he admitted it for you.
Yes, so he's
brilliant.
Yes.
And it's based on based on text and oral tradition.
He says three things. No, he says three. No, I haven't finished.
Why does the Cambridge Quran say that there's never been a textual edition of the Quran?
No, let me just finish what I said.
Of course there hasn't.
Are you guys talking to each other? Or?
A little bit.
Ibn al-Jazari said there has to be three things. Number one,
oral tradition.
Oral tradition, yes, and that oral tradition itself has conditions. He says, he said in Arabic, وَيُشْتَرَطَ الشُّهْرَةَ. It has to be mashhur, which means, in his words, because the word mutawatir wasn't there yet, because the Mu'tazilis familiarized that word. The Mu'tazilis were a group of rationalist Muslims.
They were a heretical group who disputed central doctrines of Islam. Such as whether the Quran, according to whether the Quran, for instance, was eternal or not eternal.
No, they didn't say that. They said that.
They did. They argued that the Quran was
eternal. You're not going to teach me about. Give me one name of our Mu'tazili scholar.
No, I didn't.
Okay, khalas. Don't tell me what they said.
No.
Abdul Jabbar and.
No, I'm sorry. The Mu'tazilites did dispute central doctrines.
Yeah, they did, of course, but not the eternality. It's something they had a completely different.
It was based upon.
They had a different epistemology.
Based upon predestination. There's arguments about free will.
Yes, there were.
The consequences that flowed out of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that meant that they argued that the Quran couldn't be eternal.
No,
because if they did, then that would take away free will. Because in the Quran it talks about
John, let's not disturb the thing. I can teach you about this later.
Yeah, we can talk about it later. Because you're wrong.
John, I've read it from their primary sources. Come on,
today as well, man.
No problem. I've read it from their primary. I've read Abdul Jabbar's book.
Yeah.
You know, I've read Ata ibn Wasil ibn Ata, who died 133 AH. I've read.
You're going on about oral tradition and text.
Anyway,
so oral tradition, we got that. What about the next? What's the other two?
The other one is we said the text is
the textual tradition.
So the Mus'haf, listen to this carefully, right? The Mus'haf that would have been only acceptable is the Uthmani one.
Right.
Uthman's Mus'haf.
Yeah. According to
Ibn Jazari, according to Ibn Jazari, the only Mus'haf that is acceptable is Uthman's one. Now, why?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay, no problem.
Don't ask a question.
Okay, fine. Okay,
so we've got the oral tradition, we've got the textual tradition that's rooted to Uthman.
Don't ask the
what's the
police
third
officer.
One? What's the third one?
The third one is compliance with the Quranic Arabic language.
Okay.
So it has to be, obviously, if something, because Arabic language evolves, if something is it mimics the language of those who came after, then there's a strong historical case, then that thing has been inserted into.
And where did these criteria come from?
Did
they come from the Quran or were they invented?
So, no, that's a very good question.
Good question.
This came from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So you can show me hadiths where Muhammad lays that out?
Yes.
Right, I want to see the hadiths.
Yeah,
so it didn't come from the Quran.
So the hadith in Bukhari, where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said,
yeah, he's going to lay out these three criteria and go on.
Yeah, he said, write what I say in terms of the Quran.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The idea of memorization was accepted by the Sahaba. So they said, Aqra'niha. Do you know the Sahaba, for example, most of those who are Qurra, when they were asked...
sorry, where's the hadith?
I'm telling you, this is a hadith.
The authority, what's the authority?
No, I mean, we're getting there's clearly multiple arguments going on here. Right, and
no, you asked me a hadith. I'm giving you the answer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, there's a lot of issues that have been raised, but I want to bring it back to the
what's your question? Sorry,
conversation.
You want to know what the hadith are for written preservation?
You're relying on hadiths that were written 200 years later.
No.
And then a later scholar looks at those hadith and constructs a series of.
Who told you that?
This is a good point.
But you think it's a good point?
The scholar that you've mentioned, the one who talks about the three criterion, you based.
Yeah. No. Many people have mentioned those three criteria.
Was he writing after Bukhari?
Yes.
Right. So a later scholar. One second. So a
Bukhari accepted those things as well.
A later scholar is looking back in history and retroactively describing what is happening. And what he's doing is he's looking at hadiths and he's constructing premises that you believe in. And that's fine.
Yeah, but
that's fine.
But the Quran says that and the hadith says it.
That's fine.
So what's the problem?
No, then hold on one second. I'd like to see the verses.
I'll tell you now.
But here's the thing. This is
so
why
what you said the hadith. I'm giving you the hadith.
You've given us.
If there was no hadith
criteria.
Yeah, no problem. If those.
You've given us three criteria. One of which is textual, and there are clearly textual variants in the earliest copies of the Quran.
All right, no problem. I'll come to that.
You can look at you can look at the pamphlets in Sana, and you can look. Fine, Saha, and you can look at the Topkani manuscript as well. And studies of those manuscripts demonstrate that there are variances.
Have you ever seen them?
Yes, I've seen photos.
You've never seen them.
I've seen photos of them.
You know why I know you've never seen them?
Not the original. I've seen photos of them.
My teachers have seen the actual physical one.
1 second. And
I've seen them.
In those earliest manuscripts, there are erasures. So someone's come along and rubbed something out.
But can you read the Arabic?
There are tapings over.
Yeah.
Where someone has tried to cover words, and then there are insertions of writing.
Okay.
So someone has come along to the manuscript later and added words.
All right, that's what you think. Okay, let's come back.
No, that's a fact.
Okay, no problem.
And they are at variance with the 1924 version of the Quran, which is the Quran you believe, and most Muslims use.
You can find it in Tabari as well.
All right, Tabari. All right, fine. John, actually, let's talk about Tabari, and let's talk about all the points you just made. And then we're going to ask you again about the Bible, which you haven't answered. But then no problem.
You never gave us a chance. But
okay, no, I'll give you a chance. But I want to be as fair as possible with all of your questions. And if I haven't done a good job, I'll go back and do the research and I'll help you.
Okay.
You know, edify myself.
Fair.
And,
That's fair.
No problem. So here, the question you asked was, what hadith is there, or are there hadiths to show that the preservation of the Quran, as per Al-Jazari's definition, should be more than just oral?
What I want to see is the hadith, the criterion laid out by Muhammad.
Yes. All right. So the hadith in Bukhari, where the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, he said, do not write what I say in terms of a'mal and actions, because now is the time we should be writing about the wahi, so the Quran. There's a hadith at the end of the Prophet Muhammad's life where he also commanded Ibn Shat to write his hadith. So we have on two fronts, the Prophet commanding his Sahaba, and both of them are Sahih Bukhari hadith. On two counts, one hadith telling people to write down the Quran, and one hadith telling people to write down the hadith. And we also have in the Quran itself, where it says, Inna alayna jam'ahu wa Qur'ana, in chapter 75 of the Quran, that upon us is its preservation and its compilation. And then...
Wait a second, say that again. That last bit, just say that again.
Inna alayna jam'ahu wa Qur'ana.
What does it say?
That upon us is its jam'a, is its compilation.
So is that in the Quran, sorry?
Yes, Quran.
So that's the Quran?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
upon us, and who is it speaking about?
Allah, it's talking about himself.
So it's Allah speaking about himself. It's not speaking about the companions.
Yes.
It's not speaking about
No, but here's what I'm going to tell you, right? The fact that the Quran calls it kitab, because the Quran itself, it refers to itself as kitab, which means book, yeah? So the Sahaba, Umar ibn Khattab, he took that to mean that it has to be a preserved, it has to be a written document.
So that was his interpretation?
Yes, and that everyone accepted that. Abu Bakr accepted that. Zayd accepted that.
So it didn't say it explicitly?
Who didn't?
It did. So what I'm getting...
So, no, you said hadith. I told you two hadiths.
So you told me two hadiths,
and then the Quranic verse.
And then you told me Quran. But the three principles that you laid out...
Yes, and the Quranic...
Where is it rooted in Muhammad's teaching? Because to be fair, what I haven't heard is Muhammad clearly stating what you're saying that he stated.
What is he? What do you want him to say?
Okay, he said write it down. I agree with that.
Okay.
But I didn't hear Muhammad say that is one of the criterion by which the Quran is going to be preserved.
Okay, no, hold on.
It doesn't say that. He just says write it down.
No. Okay, I'll give you another point.
I just said this for the this was a key question, because your argument was that your chain of narration is reliable and science of hadith. And I asked the key question, where was your criteria for the science of hadith? Does it have any divine authority?
Yeah, it came later.
And you're struggling to get the answer. And then it comes later.
Okay, I got you.
And you're reading this later way.
Yes.
Back into time.
Okay.
You're retroactively taking the opinions of your scholars and putting them into the words of your prophet.
John, before I told you the two hadiths that I told you about now, did you know about them before?
What, sorry?
You asked me... Sorry, guys. Sorry, let's be ingenuous here, yeah? You asked me a question about hadith. You said, where did the Prophet say you should be written or something, right? So I told you where it said.
No. Don't put words in my mouth again. You always mischaracterize my argument.
Okay, I apologize. Go ahead.
You gave three criterion of a scholar.
Yes.
That the preservation of the Quran is in oral tradition, in written tradition, and in a particular dialect.
Now let me say
maybe
Arabic language for Fusha of the Arabs at that time.
Okay, of the Arabs of that time.
Yes.
So then I said, show me where Muhammad says this. And all you've done is give me the hadith where Muhammad says something like write it down. And then you've said, that means Muhammad's saying that the preservation of the Quran will be in writing.
Hold on. That's very funny of you to say that. It's weird. That's actually very weird.
You're constructing an argument retroactively.
No, that's a very weird thing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm finding this very weird because if the Prophet.
Tackle the ball, not the man.
I didn't attack you. I said I'm finding it weird. I'm attacking myself, if anything. I said that if the Prophet Muhammad, we know from Usul al-Fiqh, which is the principles of jurisprudence, if he ever...
When was that written?
The principles of jurisprudence.
Yeah.
It's a science.
Okay, which book are you quoting when you say that?
So the first person to have a formalized book on it is a Shafi'i. He wrote a book called the Risala.
And when was that written?
Probably about 250 AH.
250 AH.
It's not in the same league as us, bro.
What are you talking about, man?
Because all of the New Testament
sources are earlier.
All of our New Testament
no,
was written closer
to
the time than the sources you're using.
I'm talking about a book of usul. It's not the Quran or the Sunnah. What's wrong with you, man?
So
it's like me asking you. You say Augustine. Augustine died in 400 and something, right?
Yeah.
And you quote him, and I say, oh, Augustine 400. It's dumb, man. It's not. It's dumb. I swear.
The connection is you're arguing for the reliability of your sources, and you're quoting these different.
The Quran itself says. Sorry, the Quran.
But you wouldn't accept, because part of your argument is saying, oh, how do you know that these are linked back? So in other words, they're late. They're late and they're anonymous.
Hold on.
But lateness is obviously not a problem for you, and neither is selection based upon belief.
But hold on, you believe in...
which is what part of the...
John, sorry to say, you believe in creeds that came 400 years after Jesus' death.
It's not a problem for us.
So... This guy's a contradiction. You're a self-contradiction, bro, man.
But the documents...
What are you talking about? You just... Hold on. Sorry, guys, man. You can't contradict yourself in my presence in that way.
Yeah. We're not contradicting ourselves.
No, please don't contradict.
You're making
because you know
an
why?
argument.
You know why?
You are on stage attacking the Christian faith
John,
because we believe in these creeds that came later.
John.
And yet you believe documents like Bukhari and the scholars that were writing after Bukhari.
John, I've already explained this to you.
So they're all much later.
But
you're saying when we do it at the Council of Nicaea, it's a problem. But when you do it about your books of jurisprudence and your definition of the preservation of the Quran, that's okay.
No, that's
so
not
is
what I
lateness a problem or not?
No, here's what I said. I said that Bukhari was not... The hadiths in Bukhari were not non-existent and then became existent at the time of Bukhari. That they were existent in written and oral form. I said this to you before. I gave you the evidences for it. In document form, I said Amr ibn al-As wrote a book. I said Ali ibn Abi Talib wrote a sahifa. I said Abu Bakr Siddiq wrote a sahifa. But I don't know if sorry to say, your attention doesn't seem to... did you get that when I said that?
You've also given dates to some of those books.
Did you?
Later than Sahih Bukhari.
They wrote those books at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Also, the scholar that you quoted to make your argument...
John, you must be able to retain this information.
We understand your argument.
Jason,
we understand.
You keep saying if lateness is an issue, which I do believe it is an issue when you're talking about fundamental creedal issues.
Right, so...
No, we're on about
hold on.
Thank you. Lateness is an issue when talking about fundamental creedal.
Yes, it is. Yes, of course, that's an argument.
Okay.
So...
Is the science of hadith fundamental to the practice of Islam?
The science of hadith?
Yes. So... When is your earliest source of your
So the science of hadith itself was put together by Allah and His Messenger.
No.
Can I prove it?
To be fair, Mohammed, I'm running out of steam, to be honest.
All right, no problem.
I'm getting tired.
I really appreciate the time.
No problem, guys. What I want to say is that, for example, the Quran, the Prophet.
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
The Prophet said, when you're compiling the Quran, he told the people. Listen to that. You're talking about preservation. He told the people that not one verse of the Quran could be accepted unless at least 2 people testify to each of the verses in the book.
Who said that?
The Prophet Muhammad said that. Okay, so hold on. Here you have 2 things. The Prophet telling the people to write it down, but also telling them how to write it down, establishing and fixing for them a criteria wherein which preservation would be ensured. And that didn't happen outside of his time. It happened in his time.
Right.
Now Jesus, sorry to say,
your source for that is